The reparations. Reparations for Africa and other former colonies involve addressing historical wrongs and their long-term impacts on these regions. There were 4 audits. Bill Gates determined that it would be wise for him to give US $200 billion to Africa through his foundation. I was doing an audit of the US by looking at the 31 countries involved in the tariffs and the deportations of 2025. My audit advised that it would be wise to give those 31 countries US $50 billion. John Bernard Aristide audited activities of USA, Canada, and France in Haiti and came up with 21 billion, especially for Haiti's independence debt. Dr. Arikana Shiomborikwa, she gave the most important data on IMF loan interest exploitations and showed how different countries, the countries that really needed it, they were paying the higher interest rates. Well, the audits of the countries and systems which manipulated Africa and the colonies, we have to figure out how much loss and long-term impacts. So the financial manipulations in Africa since the 1300s is complex, and we try to look in the AI, but what we found is that certain manipulations of trade caused imbalances and exploitation, which led to economic disadvantages. Financial manipulation often continued through unequal trade agreements, debt, and foreign aid conditions. The resulting poverty in Africa, as Dr. Shiambora Kwa said, Africa is forever defeated. But Africa is now in this revolution and trying to change the value chain. Controlling and exploiting resources of countries, especially Africa with so much gold. We can watch what's happening in Burkina Faso, which was attempted and interrupted back in 1987 when they killed Sankara. But now we can see how President Ibrahim Traore is really using the gold of Africa, and 2 judges apologized to him, so that's very important. Also, we find that people who try to take control of Africa, the former owners, or exert political power and sustain their dominance over the territory. So we have them interfering in the labor, infrastructure, debt, and dependency in these countries. So Bill Gates has been involved in activities in Africa for decades. Some of his activities were criticized, but as the educated people of Africa speak out and analyze everything that's happening, and Africa now has one government, they also analyze what needs to be done and the value chain. So he made a great speech implying what needs to be done. So here he's saying he's giving $200 billion to Africa. So something that triggered a lot of data being given to the world is the tariffs that Donald Trump put on 195 countries and the deportations in 31 countries. So this is just a list of the countries, many of them in the CARICOM area. And these countries are part of our research and communication. So we have a change management video. And so my audit was really focused on the Boca Raton, Florida area of USA. And I felt that $50 billion would be fair to be given to 31 countries because of the IMF high interest rates and other financial manipulations. So these are some AI results for countries who were affected by IMF high interest loans and other manipulations: Argentina, Greece, Jamaica, Zambia, Pakistan. Of course, I'm from Jamaica, and I have been alarmed ever since I was a teenager when the Jamaican dollar was double the value of the US dollar, and to see it get to the point today where it's 155 Jamaican dollars equal one US. However, it says IMF program in Jamaica required stringent fiscal policies and structural adjustments impacting economic growth and public services. We look at the long term effects and the inability of these countries to develop, and this makes their residents want to leave those countries and go where there is more opportunity, like coming to the US. So deportations occur because migrants from other countries are impacted by financial manipulations and are seeking a better life, which their countries are robbed of. And we already looked at that list right there: Argentina, Greece, Jamaica, Zambia, Pakistan. And of course, we have the IMF debt map, and it shows the numbers here. Jamaica is quite high, 787 million it owes. And this is just the Caribbean. Dominican Republic owes 582 million. And of course, Africa, on YouTube, there's seven very well educated Africans who are speaking about the long term impacts, which we're talking about 100 years of Africa being in manipulations which cause poverty and children to die. So this is Haiti. Jean Bernard Aristide, who is no longer president, he was also a pastor. He spoke about the reparations because the United States, Canada, and France spoke about required an independence payment by Haiti. Haiti had to pay them because they were becoming an independent country. That's why we're glad that the judges, two judges, Thomas and Roberts, have now looked at Africa and are saying that the gold belongs to Africa and a country deserves to use its own resources and its own wealth to help its people. So Haiti's independence debt was such a financial manipulation, and Haiti still had to use the IMF loan system to take care of infrastructure projects. So we want to thank Dr. Arikana Shiamborikwa from Zimbabwe, President Ibrahim Traore from Burkina Faso, Professor Lumumba, Kenya, Sandra Apia in Ghana, Lynn Naruto in Kenya, Dr. DJ Bakali, economist in Kenya, Professor Dr. Howard Nicholas, economist in Sri Lanka, Dr. Fadel Kambu, he's an economist in Ohio. Actually, Mr. DJ Bakali is not an economist, but he also speaks out. So Africa, because they're coming out of the extreme poverty and they are spending so much money and doing very good projects, even having their own currency, refer to the financial manipulations as new slavery. So I think it's a fair description because, for instance, we had in Kenya hundreds of people living in a cave, and some of the children did not eat for 4 days. So here's a picture of one of the judges. He's Judge Roberts, who apologized to Africa, and of course, Judge Thomas also apologized to Africa. So really, I was looking at reparations for several problems. One is Black Lives Matter, which I really want to focus on Caribbean diaspora lives matter because being from the Caribbean, my dad's Cuban and my mom Jamaican, I can see directly the problems. We also have an organization named Time Done, which is for people who are unjustly put in jail or prison or spend too much time in jail or prison. We have the limited value, which was really highlighted In 2023, when an Indian graduate student was killed, and the police laughed and said she was of limited value. And then we had John Sarbanes talking about 300 million Americans against big money. So the 31 million rich in the United States, I guess, are the big money. And the 300 million who are not rich are the ones who have limited value. So they are at risk too. Then there's the people who are deported. And as we point out before, they come here because there's nothing in their countries. There's no opportunity, no magic. Here it is, but my laptop blew up, so I'm using a computer lab at Florida Atlantic University. I attended this university for 10 years and graduated. So the deported people don't have these kinds of opportunities. And then the final class is a class which now has been defined as the future is a door that will never open. They are in the El Salvador prison. But with this class, it's not really fair because Anna Navarro already spoke about the people who are put there. They're not hardened criminals. Some of them were not hardened criminals, but they are being given a fate worse than death. So also Claudia Ortiz is speaking, and she's saying that there's a presumption of guilt. Usually in a court of law, there's a presumption of innocence. So we think that there should be reparations or something should be done about this. So we're in contact with an attorney. I'm glad we cut off the picture because we didn't want to expose her identity until she actually made a commitment to the case. She was given a few videos to take a look at routes to take in international law. And we want to thank Donald Trump for highlighting and validating the International Criminal Court and admitting that the courts of the United States really were not good enough because they were weaponizing these courts. So the audits were completed to finalize the reparation totals for financial manipulations all over the world. And we have several people doing the audits, included 7 from Africa and 2 economists outside. Thank you. We are International Products ETL.